On Monday, Attorney General Jeff Sessions had addressed a gathering of the nation's sheriffs. Now, he was speaking before the National Sheriffs Association, that is, of course, a trade group that represents roughly 20,000 law enforcement officials across the country. Now, that makes sense, of course, because Jeff Sessions is the top law enforcement official in the country. He is the Attorney General of the United States Department of Justice. So, look, him addressing the sheriffs, not an issue, right? I don't know anybody who made it an issue, whatever. However, what he said is a little bit problematic. I'm going to show you. Now, see, while addressing this association, he might have let a little bit of his racism slip. He said during the speech, quote, "The office of sheriff is a critical part of the Anglo-American heritage of law enforcement. We must never erode this historic office." Wait a minute. Anglo-American heritage of law enforcement. Wait, what does that mean? Why not just say proud heritage of law enforcement? That gets across the same point. Why add in Anglo-American heritage? Which to me, of course, sounds, well, like he's referring to white people. So here's the thing, right? And this is more interesting context. That part wasn't even in his prepared remarks. So just off the top of his head, while addressing a room of mostly white policemen, knowing how some people out there view him as a racist, he decided that he was going to deviate from his prepared remarks to say something that could be construed as a little bit racist. I'm sure that's just a coincidence, though. I'm sure that wasn't a dog whistle or anything like that. Oh, no, no. We have this proud Anglo-American heritage, and we've got to make sure not to erode this historic office. Take it as you will, right? Now, he has more to his speech. He said, quote, "The most important thing that any government does is keep its citizens safe." Okay, yeah, that's fair. The first civil right is the right to be safe. Okay. I'm not necessarily sure about that. It's actually, I mean, to be treated equally, that's a civil right. We actually just, look, yes, part of the government's job is to keep us safe from foreign threats and domestic threats. Absolutely fair, right? Part of the also part of the government's job is to ensure the welfare of their citizens and to make sure that people are treated equally. But I don't think he's so concerned about that as to the keeping people safe part. And by people, I mean certain people. Now, he says, quote, "Too often," and he continues from that, "too often, politics gets in the way of that mission." So what does he mean by that? Too often, politics gets in the mission of keeping people safe. Well, look, I think that he's saying that the idea that black people challenging police tactics and pointing out abuses suffered by the hands of police, as well as movements like Black Lives Matter, are getting in the way of, quote, the mission. What is the mission? I mean, look, is it supposed to be keeping people safe? Well, the amount of unarmed people being shot and killed by the police happens to continue growing up. So, no, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't call that safety, unless, of course, the only person's safety that you actually care about is the police officers. Now, do I care about police safety? Of course I do, right? But also, I have to point out that when you put on that uniform, you accept that there's a certain amount of risk associated with your job, and that your main concern should be to protect and serve the other people. Instead, what we have is people that are protecting and serving the shit out of you. But the thing is that authority is why we give you weapons, and that's why we give you a badge, and that's why we give you this power. It is to protect others, as well as, yes, yourself, right? And I think it's not too much to ask that you make sure that no matter what you do, you use that weapon as a last resort, even if it means putting yourself as a police officer in a little bit of danger in order to de-escalate these situations. Now, some officers do that, and I give them all the credit in the world. I've covered police officers that have done that before, that have done everything that they could, when they could have easily shot and killed someone, to make sure that, hey, look, we don't want a loss of life here. We want to make sure that we save your life too. And that's what you're supposed to do. Now, some of those officers that have done that have actually suffered unintended consequences. One has lost her job in response to not shooting someone. It's insane. It's insane. Which is why, of course, we need major reforms of the system. Obviously, retraining, retooling. Not only that, but a huge change in the mentality surrounding these police departments. And I think we need to actually look at what the mission of policing is supposed to be. Because for the longest time, policing has been used to keep down civil movements, keep down protesters, and also protect the wealthy and powerful. That is something that absolutely needs to change. That is the mentality that I'm talking about. That's the mission that I'm talking about. They're supposed to. What the mission should be is to protect and serve all people. Not just the powerful, not just the wealthy, and not just white people. So part of that, of course, change of mentality involves removing the focus on what Sessions calls the Anglo-American heritage of policing. We've got to remove that racism, that white supremacy. Get that out of our policing. This is the part that focuses on punishing black communities and other communities of color rather than protecting them. We need to eliminate that part. So the very part that Sessions says he wants to maintain is the very part that we absolutely have to get rid of if we ever want the police to do what we want them to do, which is, as I said before, protect and serve all people. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.